Episode 1: The House with No History. They say it appears only when you've been forgotten. Not by accident, but completely, utterly, deliberately. It doesn't matter where you are. City, village, desert, sea. One moment you're walking familiar streets, the next, there it is. A house where it shouldn't be. No neighbors, no cars, no sound. Just a crooked two-story frame, paint flaking like old skin, and a front door slightly open, as if someone had been waiting for you to arrive. For a very long time. Mira saw it on a Wednesday, the night she blocked the last number in her phone. The night she whispered to no one would care if I vanished. She didn't cry. There was no drama. Just that heavy quiet that clings to you when you realize you've said your last goodnight. Without knowing it, she'd left her apartment for air. No jacket, no destination, just silence in her headphones and the flicker of streetlights. She turned the corner of Franklin and 12th, a street she'd walked for years. And it was there, the house. It shouldn't have been. There was no lot here, no space for anything. But the house stood confidently, as if it had been there long before Mira, before the town. Maybe even before people learned how to forget each other. She approached. There was no mailbox, no number, no sound from inside. But the porch light was on, and the door was open, just wide enough to suggest a question. Did you mean it? Do you really want to be alone? She stepped inside. No one called her name. No alarms. No creak of stairs or slam of doors. Just stillness. The kind that isn't empty, but watching. The floorboards were warm under her bare feet. The air smelled like dust and old paper. And the wallpaper. Mira stopped. It was the same pattern from her childhood bedroom. Tiny red roses. One of them torn just above the bed. She used to stare at that tear when she cried. She never told anyone. But it was here. Exactly here. She walked into the hallway. The photos on the wall showed no faces, just outlines, as if the house had tried to remember people, but forgot their names halfway through. In the living room, a fireplace crackled. She didn't light it. It had been waiting. Beside it, a chair, not modern, worn, familiar. She sat her day. She didn't know why. Maybe because there was no one left to call, no one to ask, "Are you okay?" No one. She had already pushed too far away, or too deep inside herself. The flames shifted, and for a brief moment, in the heart of the fire, she saw a door. Red, breathing, opening, then it was gone. The fire crackled softly. The house exhaled, and from somewhere upstairs, a voice like her own whispered, "Welcome home." Episode 2: The voice that doesn't want to be heard. The house doesn't speak in words. It speaks in reminders, in creaking floorboards that echo too long, in curtains that sway when there's no wind, in clocks that tick slower the lonelier you feel. Mira hadn't left. She wasn't trapped, but nothing outside felt real anymore. She checked her phone. No signal. Not even the date showed. Just the time. 2:47 a.m. Always. She stood in the living room, staring at the fireplace, where she thought she saw a door the night before, but now it was only ash. She explored the second floor. Every step on the staircase whispered, not creaked, whispered, her name, but not how people say it, not casual, not caring. It was her name the way her mother said it, the last time she begged her to come home. Low, breaking, lost, at the top of the stairs, a hallway of doors, all closed, all silent, except one, the third on the left. Its doorknob turned slowly as she stepped near, but didn't open, just enough to breathe. A sound slipped out, a voice, hers, but younger, angrier, crying, "Don't go, please don't go." Mira frowned. That wasn't a memory. That was a moment she had locked away. She had said those words to someone once, a long time ago, someone who never looked back. But now the words were being returned to her. She opened the door. The room was small, empty except for a tape recorder, and a single chair facing the wall. On the tape, a label, "Play me when you forget what your voice sounds like." She pressed play. The tape hissed. Then her voice spoke. "I don't want to be alone. I just don't want to be the one begging to be kept. If you're listening to this, it means you're almost gone." The voice cracked. "And you need to know it's okay to be heard again, even if it hurts." Mira dropped the recorder, not because of what it said, but because the recorder was warm. Someone had played it just before her. She turned, and for a second, in the reflection of the hallway mirror, she saw someone standing behind her, head down, hair matted, hands shaking. But when she spun around, no one was there, only a voice from the floorboards, barely audible. "You came back? You and me. That night. Mira slept on the second floor. The house didn't stop whispering, but the whispers felt less cruel, more like the house wasn't trying to scare her. It was trying to remember her. Episode 3, The Room That Remembers What You Forgot. The house doesn't want you to discover. It wants you to remember, not the surface memories. Birthdays, arguments, breakups, the ones you locked away, the ones you buried because they were too quiet to grieve properly, too small to justify the pain they left behind. Mira found the room on the third morning. If it was morning, there were no clocks now, no sun through the windows, only soft gray light that felt like the last breath of a dream. She hadn't eaten, she wasn't hungry. The house had begun to feed her with memories. That door wasn't hidden, it was just disinterested. Second on the right, across from the bathroom, and painted, unremarkable. But when she touched it, it shuddered, not like wood, like skin. Inside, a long table, candlelit, dustless, 12 chairs, and seated in every home, someone she had once loved. Her father, staring at his hands. Her childhood best friend, hair braided the way she wore it in 4th grade. Her first girlfriend, her ex, her old cat, curled on the seat beside them like royalty. People and moments she'd convinced herself didn't matter anymore, but they weren't speaking. None of them moved. They weren't statues. They were possibilities the house had remembered. On her behalf, at the head of the table, an empty chair, waiting. Mira took a step forward, and everyone at the table turned their heads in unison. No expression, just eyes that held what she was afraid to admit, that even in her worst pain, she missed them all, even the ones who hurt her, even the ones she left first. She stepped back. The chair at the head of the table scraped itself out, inviting her, begging her, daring her to sit and be part of the life she refused to mourn. But she didn't sit. Instead, she whispered, "I can't fix what I forgot." And one by one, the people at the table whispered back, "We didn't come to be fixed. We came to be remembered." Then the lights went out. When they returned, the room was empty again, except for that chair, and in front of it, an note, handwritten in her own handwriting. "Forgiveness doesn't need to knock. You already left the door open." Mira walked out shaking, not with fear, but with the weight of what it means to carry ghosts that never wanted to haunt you, only to be acknowledged. Episode 4, You Can Leave Alone. The house never said she couldn't leave. There were no locks, no chains, no whispering walls that begged her to stay, just a hallway that always led back inside. Mira tried to leave at dawn, if that's what the light could be called, a dim wash of gray that dripped through the windows, like a memory trying to forget itself. She found the front door again, the one she entered through, still slightly ajar. Still waiting, she stepped outside. The porch groaned beneath her feet. The gravel crunched. The air shifted. She took a breath. It tasted like the outside world. Exhaust fumes, rain-soaked concrete, the invisible lake of human noise. For a moment, she felt free. Then she turned around. The house was gone. In its place, an empty street. No buildings, no power lines, just a flat stretch of concrete that stretched into mist. She spun around, walked 10 steps, 20, 50. She reached a wall, not a physical one, but something silent, the kind of boundary you feel in your stomach before you see it with your eyes. She raised her hand to touch it. There was nothing there, but her fingers stopped, and then came the voice, soft, from inside her ear. Not a whisper, a reminder. You didn't come here alone. You came with everything you refused to carry. She turned around again, and the house was there, closer than before. The door wide open, the light inside flickering like a memory stuttering into existence. She stepped back in. The air was warmer, the furniture had shifted, and on the table in the front room, a single glass of water. Next to it, her journal, the one she lost 3 years ago, the one filled with letters she wrote to no one, apologies she never sent, grief she never processed. The first page was open, her own handwriting, but the ink was fresh. A new line had been added. "You're not alone. You're just unfinished." She sat her down on the floor, not to cry, to breathe. For the first time, she wondered if the house wasn't trying to trap her. Maybe it was trying to keep her safe, at least until she knew what she was really running from. And far beneath the floor, beneath the memory-soaked beams and heartbeat walls, a new door began to form, not to leave, but to go deeper. Because sometimes the only way out is further in. Episode 5, The Mirror That Lied Kindly. There was a mirror in the hallway that Mira had passed at least 8 dozen times. She never looked into it, not because she was afraid of what she'd see, but because she wasn't sure anything would be there. On the 5th day, the mirror was different, clean, polished, too pristine for a house coated in dust and forgotten breath. And this time, it called to her, not with sound, but with invitation. She stood in front of it, no distortion, no flicker, just herself. But something was wrong, too subtle to name. Her reflection stood still, her eyes looked bright, her shoulders didn't carry the weight she knew was there. Then her reflection smiled, and she hadn't. The smile was soft, gentle, the kind of expression Mira hadn't worn in years. Her reflection tilted its head, curious, almost kind, and then it spoke, but not aloud. Its mouth didn't move. The voice bloomed inside her skull. This is the version of you that never hurt, the one who kept all her friends, the one who said yes to love, the one who didn't break. Mira stepped back. The mirror's light grew warmer. You don't have to go back to the pain, it whispered. You can stay here. Be this, be me. She wanted to say no, but part of her, the part that still mourned in silence, the part that replayed old voicemails just to hear a familiar voice, ached for it. The reflection raised a hand, pressed it against the glass. Mira hesitated, then raised her own. Their fingertips met, cold to warm, and the mirror rippled, like water, like memory, like it could be stepped into. She closed her eyes. For a moment, she imagined herself inside the glass, smiling, whole, surrounded by people who never left, a kitchen full of laughter, a bed that didn't feel too big, a heart that wasn't hollowed by absence. She opened her eyes. The mirror was gone. In its place, a bare wall, cracked, empty, but in the reflection of the window beside her, the other version of her still stood, still smiling, and this time, it mouthed the words clearly. You come back? They always do. Mira turned away, and for the first time in days, the house felt colder, not cruel, just disappointed. That night, she dreamed of glass, of walking barefoot across a mirror that never broke, and every step she took whispered, it's okay to want to forget. Episode 6, The Basement Where No One Cried. Mira found the basement by accident, or maybe the house had decided. She was finally lonely enough to see it. It wasn't hidden, just forgotten. A narrow door behind the pantry, one she had passed 100 times, but never noticed. No lock, no creak, just darkness, coiled like a held breath. Beneath the floor, she descended slowly, each step deeper than it had any right to be. Each step heavier, like the house was sinking with her. The basement smelled of old air and long silences. No cobwebs, no boxes, no forgotten furniture, just a row of chairs, 12 of them, perfectly arranged in a circle, all of them worn, some with indentations in the seat cushions, as if people had been sitting for years. At the center, a drain, covered in rust, stained around the edges with something that looked like salt. Mira stepped closer. The chairs whispered, not in voices, but in presence. Each one felt occupied by something just missing, memories that had stayed too long and become shape. She sat her day in the nearest one. The air tightened, the lights above flickered on, though no switch had been flipped, and the wall across from her began to bleed names, handwritten, scratched into the plaster. Hundreds, thousands, all first names, no dates, no last words, until she saw hers. Mira, written twice, one faded, one fresh, and below it, the only people who come here are the ones who didn't cry when they should have. She stood. The drain began to hum, not a machine sound, but a throat sound, muffled, like someone sobbing, with no mouth to speak through. And then, a voice behind her, small, timid, almost her own. You didn't cry when she died. You didn't cry when you left. You didn't cry when you wanted to. Mira turned, but the basement was empty. No shadows, no figures, just the mirror from upstairs, propped in the corner now. Facing her, she looked, and in the reflection, she was crying, tears streaming, mouth open, chest shaking, but a real face, dry, still, unchanged. She touched the mirror, and a tear fell, her first one since she entered the house. It hit the floor. The chairs creaked. In relief, in mourning, the house sighed, and from the drain, a single word rose up like smoke. Finally, episode 7, it doesn't want you to be alone. It wants you to stay lonely. There's a difference between being alone and being kept lonely. The house knows that difference, and it prefers the second. After the basement, Mira felt lighter, like something had finally cracked inside her chest. A knot loosened, a dam opened. She thought, maybe, just maybe, she was healing. That night, she found a door that hadn't been there before. It was painted yellow, bright, hopeful, a ribbon tied to the knob, childlike. She opened it. Inside, a sunlit kitchen, smells of coffee and toast, someone humming off-key in another room. And there, sitting at the table, herself, but happy, laughing softly at something on her phone, tapping her foot, wearing a sweater Mira had thrown away years ago. This version of her looked odd, like someone had loved her correctly, like the weight in her shoulders had been lifted long ago. Mira stepped forward. The version at the table didn't react, didn't look up, just kept living. The mirror over the sink caught her reflection, but it wasn't a reflection anymore. It was a window. She saw hundreds of rooms, each one with someone sitting quietly, all of them looking at the same thing, their own lives, reimagined, edited, softened, lonely beautifully so, the kind of loneliness that tricks you into thinking, this isn't so bad, I could stay, I don't need more than this. Then the hum began, low, constant. The happy version of Mira paused, turned to the window, and whispered, "It wants you to give up needing more." Mira stepped back. The second, the floor turned cold, and from behind the cabinet, a voice rose like oil through water. "Stay lonely, and you'll never be disappointed again." She ran, out the door, down the hall, but the house rearranged itself. Every hallway ended in that same kitchen. Every mirror showed the same happy version of her, not missing anyone, not hoping, not risking, just enduring. She collapsed in the foyer, hands over her ears. "I don't want perfect, I want real." And the house answered. It screamed, the walls cracked, the lights burst, the mirror shattered, and from every surface, in her own voice, the words, "If you ever leave, you'll be lonely for real." Then silence. The kitchen was gone, the house still, the home gone, but the ache remained. Not fear, not grief, something worse, comfort. Episode 8, The Friend Who Never Left. There was someone in the house, not a shadow, not a whisper, a person, or at least, something wearing the shape of one. Mira met him in the hallway that should have led to the attic. She opened the door expecting stairs. Instead, she found a narrow library, lit by a single lamp, and a boy sitting cross-legged on the floor, reading a book with no title. He looked up and smiled, like he'd been waiting days, or years. "Took you long enough," he said, voice warm like soup in winter. "I was getting lonely." He said his name was Kel. He didn't ask her name, he already knew it. "You screamed it the first time you tried to leave," he said with a grin. That scared her, but not as much as it should have, because something in him felt familiar, like a friend from childhood you'd forgotten existed, but whose laughter your bum still remembered. They talked for hours, or maybe minutes, in the house. Time is a soft lie. Kel told stories of others who had stayed, some who had become the floors, some who had become the windows. But he hadn't changed. He remained just Kel. "I knew how to survive," he said. "You have to let it feed you, without letting it finish you." She asked if he was real. He laughed. "Does that matter?" That night, they Saturday on the floor of the library, books scattered around them, and for the first time in days, Mira laughed, a small one, cracked and rusted, but real. "You don't feel alone when someone else is lonely with you," Kel said, softly, and she almost cried. Almost. But later that night, she passed a mirror in the hallway, and saw only herself, no Kel. The next morning, his book was gone, the lamp still warm, but where Kel had. Saturday, the wooden floor was worn deep, as if someone had been sitting there for a very, very long time. Later that day, she heard him again, laughing from a different room, then whispering through the vents, "I'm still here, Mira, I never left. I don't think I can." She called his name. No answer, just a knock from inside the wall. 3 slow taps, and then her own voice, muffled and distant. "If you can hear me, please don't forget me." She ran to the library, empty, gone, and carved into the wall, underneath the flickering lamp. The friend you never grieved becomes the voice you keep mistaking for hope. Episode 9, Rooms Grow When You Miss Someone. The house was larger now. She didn't see it grow. It never creaked or shifted, but Mira knew. Every time she missed someone, a new room appeared. It started with the music box. She found it in the hallway on a shelf that hadn't been there the day before. The box was pale blue, chipped at the edges, the kind her sister had once owned, the one they'd both forgotten existed. She opened it. It didn't play music. It whispered. "Do you remember what a laugh sounded like when it was real?" Mira shut the box, but the damage was done. The next morning, the hallway had doubled in length, and at the very end, a door with her sister's initials carved into the wood. Inside, a bedroom that shouldn't exist. Not in this house, not in this timeline, but it was perfect, exactly as it had looked the last time Mira had visited her sister's apartment. Before the silence, before the blame, before the funeral with too many unspoken things sealed inside it. On the dresser, a note, written in Mira's handwriting. I should have called. I thought I had time. She Saturday on the bed. It was warm, worn. It smelled like citrus and bad decisions just like her sister used to. She didn't cry, but the house still heard the grief, still fed on it. That night, she dreamed of hallways, of doors with names she hadn't thought of in years, the teacher she disappointed, the lover she left midwinter, the friend she ghosted without explanation. Each own a door now, each own a room waiting to be filled. Mira woke up sweating. The house was breathing faster. The wallpaper pulsed faintly. The floorboards moaned like they were tired of holding so much weight. And down the hall, new doors had appeared. 8, 10, more, all blank, but not for long. Because the more she remembered, the more she missed, the more space the house made for her sorrow. She tried not to think of anyone, tried to empty herself, but the silence only made the longing louder. The worst part, somewhere in her bones, she could feel that the house didn't just grow for her. It grew into her. One last note, scrawled on the wall outside her bedroom door. Freshly written in red, the house doesn't want you to let go. It wants you to remember everything until there's no room for you left. Episode 10, Don't Talk to the Upstairs One. There were rules in the house. Mira had never been told them, but she felt them. In the walls, in the shadows, in the way the air held its breath when she stood too close to certain doors. It started with a sound above her ceiling, not footsteps, dragging, like something being pulled across the attic floor. Low, heavy, deliberate. She didn't remember the house having an attic. She didn't remember the ceiling vent ever being open. But it was, now, and from it, a voice, "You're almost ready." She tried to ignore it, to pretend she hadn't heard the voice that sounded almost like her own, but lower, scratched, as if it had been dragged through to many empty rooms. That night, she found a new hallway, narrow, unlit, a dead end, except at the very end, painted in white letters that seemed to bleed through the wall. Don't talk to the upstairs on northeast. She blinked, and the words were gone. The next morning, the voice was louder. It didn't whisper anymore. It knocked 3 times from above. And then, "I remember the things you forgot on purpose." Mira climbed the stairs. They hadn't existed yesterday. Wooden, dustless, clean to clean. At the top, a single door. It wasn't locked. She didn't touch it, didn't even breathe too close, but her name was carved into it. Carved, erased, carved again, as if someone was trying to rewrite her. From the other side came her voice, but younger and terrified. "Please don't open it. If you let her out, she'll become you." Mira ran back down the stairs, back through the house. But the rules had changed. The mirrors wouldn't reflect. The doors wouldn't close. The house had grown taller overnight, and every room had ceilings she couldn't see. Just darkness and footsteps above. That night, she found a second note, this one written on her pillow. Not ink, not blood, hair braided carefully into cursive. "She's been waiting longer than you've been lonely." Mira didn't sleep, because the upstairs one didn't either. And at 3:07 a.m., when the entire house fell silent, she heard breathing from inside her closet, from under her bed, from the back of her throat, and a voice, not hers, not anymore. "You'll talk to me soon." Everyone does. Episode 11, Loneliness is a place, not a feeling. Loneliness isn't a feeling, it's a location. And Mira was finally standing in the center of it. She didn't remember falling asleep, but she woke up standing, barefoot, in a room made of fog and floorboards. No windows, no ceiling, just walls that breathed. Every few seconds, the floor beneath her pulsed, as if the house had grown a heartbeat, and it was somehow inside her. She walked, or maybe floated. The room moved with her, always just wide enough to make her feel like she wasn't trapped, just kept. Then she saw it, the well, at the very center, circular, stone, ancient, and from it, a rope, cut, suspended in the air, leading upward into nothing. Tied to the rope, a photograph, face down. She picked it up. It was a picture of her, smiling, holding someone's hand. Only, the other hand was gone, burned out of the photo, as if the house couldn't remember who she once loved, but refused to let her forget that she once did. She looked into the well. No bottom, only echoes, but not of sound, of memories. She saw herself at 6 years old, drawing angels with broken wings. She saw her high school bedroom, lit only by her phone screen and the silence of not being texted back. She saw an empty chair beside her at a hospital bed, her father's last breath, unwitnessed, and the echo whispered, "You built this place." Brick by brick, tear by swallowed tear, she collapsed, not from fear, from truth, because the house wasn't trapping her, it was becoming her. Or worse, she was becoming it. Every missed call, every unsent apology, every door she never reopened, all of them were walls now. Rooms, ceilings, foundations, and in a fog, the upstairs voice returned, no longer whispering, now weeping, "We're not ghosts, we're the people you didn't hold on to long enough." Mira looked up. There was no sky, only a mirror, suspended like a moon, reflecting her face, but not her eyes. The reflection smiled. It was already climbing the rope, going back up, into her life. Mira screamed, but no sound came out, only mist, because loneliness. She finally understood, isn't the absence of people, it's the moment when your echo stops calling back. And the house was full of echoes that had no one left to sound like. Episode 12, the day the house forgot her. Mira woke up to silence, not the kind that waits, the kind that forgets you were ever there. The house didn't greet her, no creaking floorboards, no whisper in the vents, no knock at 307, just stillness and absence. She stood in the center of her room. The wallpaper was blank, the furniture was gone, even her footprints erased. She called out, "I'm here." No reply. She checked the mirror in the hallway. No reflection, just a thin layer of dust where her silhouette should have been. She ran to the library. Books gone, shelves empty. The walls had collapsed into a single flat surface, scrubbed of titles, spines, and Kel. She called his name. No echo, not even in her memory. She knew she should remember his voice, his grin, the way he said, "You're not alone anymore." But the memory was soft now, faded, like it belonged to someone else. She climbed to the attic. The door didn't resist, didn't breathe. Behind it, a pure white room, ceilingless, endless, blank, and in the center, a chair, facing nothing. On it, a single note. "We tried to keep you, but you let go." She reached for it, and the paper crumbled to dust in her hands, just like her name had. In every journal the house had shown her. Downstairs, the kitchen was hollow. The table was set for no one. Every plate empty, every seat facing away, and the front door still wide open. For the first time since she'd arrived, she stepped toward it, not out of escape, out of instinct, because something inside her knew the house wasn't holding her anymore. It had forgotten, or worse, replaced her. She stood on the porch. The world outside was fog, not air, not space, just static in the shape of sky. She turned back one last time, hoping the house would remember her, that it would creak, or call her name, or let one door breathe her in. But nothing moved, nothing grieved. The house had let her go the way silence lets go of sound. Not cruelly, just completely. She stepped into the fog, and for a moment, she felt lighter, like maybe she could start again, somewhere else, someone else. But then, from behind her, from inside the house, a door slammed, and from deep within it, a voice whispered, "Who was she?" No one answered, because no one remembered, not even the house. Episode 13, the room where you are rewritten. There is a room at the very end of the house. No door, no handle, just a wall that softens when it finally decides you're ready to walk through it. Mira never found it. It found her. She didn't remember how long she'd been wandering. Time no longer kept her company. Her name had worn thin, her face had become vague, but she kept walking, because somewhere, beneath everything the house had erased, she still believed in something. Not survival, but return. The wall pulsed once, then folded inward like paper. She stepped through. The room was blank, endless, a space without edge, filled with the hum of a story waiting to begin. In the center, a desk, a chair, a single sheet of parchment, blank, and a pen. She sat her day. The paper didn't demand. The pen didn't tremble, but the room whispered, not in words, but in invitation. Write who you are, or who you want to become, or who you never had the chance to be. Her hand hovered over the page. She remembered fragments. A smile, a staircase, a name, maybe hers, maybe someone else's. None of it was clear. And yet, the page didn't wait. It ached for truth, even broken truth. She began to write, not with elegance, not with certainty, just with need. I am the echo of a girl who used to laugh loudly in bookstores. I am the afterimage of the last voicemail I never deleted. I am what's left when everyone else forgets. And somehow, I am still here. The paper shimmered, lines fading, reappearing, and ton from the corners of the room. Doors, down seams, hundreds, all red, all closed, all breathing gently, but they no longer called to her. They waited. For once, she would choose not to be remembered, not to be found, but to begin. She stood. The page remained on the desk, and on it, one last sentence, written in handwriting that wasn't hers, but could have been. The house doesn't end, it simply lets go. Mira stepped toward a door. Not the first, not the brightest, just one that looked honest. She reached for the handle, took a breath, and opened it. Light, not harsh, not holy, just the soft warmth of a world that didn't know her yet. And still, she stepped in.